Welcome to Prison Weekly, which this week comes to you from inside Her Majesty's Prison, Frankland in County Durham. My name is John Willis and I'm serving 9 years. Frankland is a dispersal prison and we have about 450 inmates, ranging from high risk to Cat C. Dispersal prisons are the most secure in the system, and Frankland has 153 Category A prisoners, most of them lifers. Staff numbers are almost 1-to-1 because many Cat A prisoners have to be escorted at all times by 2 prison officers. Coming up in this week's programme, we investigate the new system of inmate perks, the incentive schemes that have split the prison population down the middle.
Well, to me it's divisive, you know what I mean? It's like divide and conquer. That is my whole objection to the thing.
And we go to Sweden, where inmates can have sex with their partners and everybody's happy about it.
And this is where the action takes place.
But first, everyone has their own ideas about sex offenders and what to do with them. Castrate them, kill them, throw away the key, or treat them. But what about the officers who have to work with them every day? Principal Officer Bob Clements spoke to 2 officers at HMP Watton about their personal difficulties in teaching sex offenders.
Most men who are in prison for sexual offences will serve their sentence segregated for their own safety. During their sentence, they will be expected to complete a sex offenders treatment programme, which is run by prison staff who volunteer to be trained as tutors. They work with the sex offenders on a course which could last for up to a year. Each sex offenders treatment programme, or SOTP, works with about 8 offenders. The tutors first read the court depositions, which give detailed descriptions of the crimes. The SOTP includes role-playing and watching videos of victims recounting their horrific experiences. The programme is long and painful, ultimately designed to make the men admit and accept what they have done and find ways to avoid re-offending. So, how many courses of the SOTP have you actually now completed?
I would think at least maybe 10 to 12, at least a dozen, I would think I've actually done over the years.
So, what's been the hardest part for you?
I watched a video on No Great Trauma, which is about a rape, and I watched that for the first time actually in the group, and it floored me. I was unable to carry on. I stopped the group, and we stopped it for the rest of the afternoon, and I went home, and I was totally out of it. I hit the bottle, and it just totally destroyed me because I'd never seen it before, and it just wiped the floor with me.
So what makes you carry on? I mean,
because I don't want to see any more videos like I've seen. I don't want to see victims. I don't want to read depositions of what they've actually done. I don't want that, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stop that. Hopefully, that's what my main aim is.
And does the SOTP work then?
I believe so. I really believe so. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be doing it. It's not an easy option. Certain people think because we don't do weekends and we don't work nights, they think it's a cop-out. It's not a cop-out. We just say, well, you come and read the depositions, you come and listen to what we have to listen to, and you tell me which is the easiest, sitting on the wing doing association or listening to this lot.
Because she's got skimpy clothes on, or short clothes, people read into the signs that probably she's available.
It's hard to tell if they're 15, 16 or even younger.
When you get aroused, there's also a definite change in how you look.
Sort of uptight, sort of.
Well, she likes it. She'd like that type of thing. She'd enjoy that.
There are no witnesses who tell a word against mine.
And also, she didn't say no.
I've got a grandson, and there's certain things I can't do with my grandson that I've learned for what people have done on the SOTP courses.
So, what type of thing can't you do with your grandson then that you would normally have done prior to you starting on SOTP?
I won't allow him into the bathroom at all with me. He won't come in. I won't allow him in my bath. I won't allow him to come into the shower. I won't even allow him to go to when I go to the toilet. I have to lock the door. And the realisation was horrendous because I've lost something, if you like, with my grandson that I had with my own 4 children.
Mick has been a prison officer for 7 years and he's just finished teaching his first sex offenders treatment programme.
Have you got 5 minutes, Phil? Thanks very much. I've got a lot of life's experience and I thought I could handle it. This is no problem. And what are they on about, you know, what stress is? But when you've actually read all these 9 depositions and all these medical reports and the victim, etc., and then you start working with them and they're denying and they're making excuses and you've read what they've done and they're saying, well, the little girl walked around with just a vest on, you know, and she might have known it might, and you're thinking, this little kid's 6, you've read it in the... Yeah, you get a lot of stress out of that and you get a lot of frustration because, I mean, we have to use the Socratic method of teaching where you don't shout and bully, you get them to understand what they've done themselves without you prompting them and bashing them, you know, they have to understand themselves what they've done. And it's very frustrating.
You told me that this is your first course. Are you now the same Mick as Mick was 6 months ago?
I think you'd have to ask my wife that one. I think I don't think I am the same, no, because I don't think I've quite got a grip of dealing with the stress yet. I still have problems with it, but I think I'm getting better.
Can you tell me a few of the problems that you still have then?
Well, I mean, I've always slept well, but I don't sleep well now. I wake up a lot in the night. I mean, I've purposely been on a diet, but I've lost 2 stone. I get very irritable, but I didn't realise I was doing all this. But when I talk to my wife, she sits and she's very quietly spoken, and we just sit and talk about it. And she's pointed out different things, the way I've changed since I've been doing SOTP. And I've thought about it. I think, yeah, I have got more irritable, and yeah, I do get very tetchy, and I do need to deal with this. And talking to the counsellor as well, he brings all that out in you. You know, how have you changed? He asks the same questions that you're asking. How have you changed, and what have you done differently? And you realise, yeah, I am. This is getting a grip of me. I better sort this out.
In 1995, all prisons in England and Wales were told to bring in an incentive scheme. Prisoners conforming to the system were allowed extra perks and conditions, while disruptive inmates were sent back to a harsher regime. Ex-inmate Jack Merton came here to Frankland to ask cons and officers what they think about it.
Incentive schemes were introduced to be tough on prisoners by making them earn privileges. Some claim it helps maintain control, whilst others feel it's open to abuse and denies them basic rights. There are 3 levels of incentives: basic, standard and enhanced. They determine how much money you earn, how many visits you get and how long you are banged up. Most start on standard level.
When you're on standard, it's like a normal routine. You get your normal things that prisoners get. And from there is enhanced, which you've got to stay off, be drug-free, nicking for, got to be nicked for 6 months. And you get the extra benefits of the enhanced, which is extra money, extra visits, and all the perks that the prison will give you. That's the budget, don't you?
At the top of the incentive ladder, prisoners have to sign a contract between them and the prison service. Breaking the agreement can result in a warning or a move down to standard or even back to basic level. On the enhanced regime, all prisoners volunteer for regular drug and alcohol testing. A lot of prisoners have yet to be convinced.
Like there's not much difference actually on the enhanced landing compared to the other landings, you know. Like you get like an extra VU, or you can get like extra money sent in, like from your family and that outside. But a lot of people, they haven't got visitors, and a lot of people, they haven't got money to send in. So there's no incentive for them really.
Visiting orders, or VOs, are just one of the issues which divide the prisoners and make them critical of the scheme.
I am enhanced, okay? If they want to keep me here, they must give and pay a ticket to my children so they can visit to me, because I deserve visit from my children. I am enhanced. I'm not making no problem.
It's like middle class, working class in there. Top class, isn't it? The wild ones have gone on the hunts, the slow people old divvies who want to kick up against the regime have gone on the basics.
Well, to me it's divisive, you know. I mean, it's like divide and conquer. That is my whole objection to the thing.
You make the choice yourself. It's up to yourself. If you want to quieten down, but as I said to you before, I believe that if you do make that change, it should help with parole.
A lot of prisoners are critical of the incentive schemes, but has it changed the working life of staff?
The big improvement is when you open a cell door. Beforehand, you didn't know what you were going to meet when you opened the cell door the other side. But now, we have a good relationship with them because you do get the better class of inmate, if that's the word you use, but they're prepared to conform with the system, which makes our job much easier.
Do you ever sort of look at, you know, like a prisoner that you might call a face, you know, like an influential prisoner? Do you ever try and induce them to come down here?
Tried a few times, but they won't have it. Just because of it's all buddies together, isn't it? If one comes down, then he's out with the clique. It's bad drill, if you like. They don't like it. So nobody, to save face, won't come down here.
Incentive schemes have been successful, but from what I've heard, if they are really going to take off, the rewards have to be better. There's no incentive greater than getting out earlier.
It was difficult to determine whether Mrs. Payne came out of prison as a notoriety or a celebrity. Reunited with her small terrier, there were roses from the English collective of prostitutes and questions from the assorted collection of journalists. She'd been in jail as a result of the sexy party she held at her home in Streatham. There, what her lawyer called respectable men in responsible jobs were invited to meet prostitutes.
I remember waving from the Rose Voice like the Queen, and it was very, very exciting leaving prison. That was a great day, that was. We were 8 girls in a room, bunk beds either side, in the corners, table and 4 chairs. We were locked up from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 7:30 the next morning. And I remember all my family were writing to me and saying, you'll have to get up early in the morning now, because I was never an early riser. But believe you me, when you're locked up from 4 o'clock to 7, you're quite happy to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. The food was bad, terrible. I came out with a lovely figure. I knocked off 2 stone while I was there. So that was one good point. I did come out a lot thinner. But I should never forget, this girl, she taught me about 6 things that you can do with the Tampax. And you can always get Tampax easily in prison. And they use the actual cardboard round the Tampax for curlers in their hair. They use the string to put through their ear holes with some of those that were pierced. The cotton wool they could use for their face. There was 4 other things they could do, but you know, I can't remember, but it was amazing, you know, what they can do with the Tampax. I mean, they used to put all the lesbians in my room, but for the simple reason that I never complained, because I'd much rather them make love than make war. And that was the first time, really, that I laughed through my tears, because I thought to myself, I don't know, they send me to Holloway for arranging simulated and striptease exhibitions, and I went to Holloway and I saw the real thing there.
Each week, Prison Weekly gives a camera to inmates at different stages in their sentence. Prisoners normally start their sentence at a local prison, then are moved after a few months to a training prison to serve out the rest of their time. This week, we meet cellmates Mark Gibbs and Michael Hadley just before they are moved.
My name's Michael Hadley. I'm serving 7 years for crimes of violence, and it's my first time ever in prison or ever in trouble with the police before.
My name's Mark Gibbs. This is my first time in prison. I'm serving 7 years for GBH. Blakenhurst hasn't been a bad prison for us. It's been a fair place.
Hang on a minute. What are these here?
Get out of
I can't believe it.
We were friends on the outs, Michael and myself. Came inside together.
Come on then, might as well get packed up and carry on later. Get it up and done with.
You can do packing?
Yeah.
Now, people just assume you go to jail, you stop in one jail. There's a hell of a lot of movement, recategorisation goes on. People get moved around for different reasons. Have you ever been to Tenerife for the 2 weeks? Got wrecked, had to pack everything and leave in a hurry for the plane in the morning. That is what this is like, believe me.
Before the police get there.
Except in our case, it's after the police have already got there. Yeah. As you can see, the toilet facilities at Blakenhurst are actually quite good.
Just want to get it over with now. I don't know how well I'll sleep tonight, or how well any of us will sleep.
Come on, Santa.
Come on, Santa. Yo,
You feel apprehensive, but you also feel excited. You're nervous about what you're going to find when you get there, what the reception is going to be like off the other inmates, whether they'll text you, whether it'll be an instant dislike, you know. All right, news.
Liken it to sort of like moving house. It's quite stressful. We don't know what to expect. Not really frightened of going, just not looking forward to the induction period, which we think is going to be a lot of lockup. It's never the most pleasant time in a prison.
Me, was it?
Thanks very much.
Okay. Have a nice day. Thanks for coming private. Well, Aga, that was us in Blakenhurst then.
Being separated from my co-defendant and friend Michael Hadley, who's upstairs, was a bit of a blow. We used to have a good time together, good laugh.
It was a bit of a culture shock coming from the enhanced straight down to the induction, which is the basic regime. After working so hard to get up to enhanced and then just losing it all straight away is a bit of a pain. To say induction is the worst part of a prison, and you can usually get a feel of what a prison's like judging by its induction.
It's the shit end of every fucking prison, folks. No exception. Just here, it gets better and better from here on in.
Sweden has the reputation of being the cushiest place in the world to go to jail. Jack Merton checked out 2 places in Sweden. Hall, a top security prison near Stockholm, to see how cushy it really is. But first he investigates a typically Swedish way of banging people up.
I've come to the town of Linköping to meet Daniel and see how he's coping with the stress of doing his time at home. So this is where you live, Daniel? Yeah, this is... In Sweden, you always go to jail for drinking and driving. Daniel was sentenced to 1 month in prison. He's decided instead to be electronically tagged in his university residence.
So this is my room.
Yeah.
My girlfriend and I living here. And here we got the receiver.
This is for the tag?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, and the tag is on my left foot too.
Oh, right. Show us, yeah?
Yeah. It's under the sock right here.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I can keep on seeing my girlfriend. I can live in my ordinary room. Well, the most important thing is that I can keep up my studying.
Daniel has to wear his tag 24 hours a day. He's connected by a phone in his room to a central computer, and his time is controlled hour by hour. He can only leave his room to attend lectures and eat, at specific times agreed with the authorities.
Hej. Ja, då är det dags för en kontrollbesök igen då. Ja.
But prison rules still apply. He can't drink or take drugs, and a probation officer can call any time, day or night, and demand a breath test.
Sitter Bojan?
But what happens if Daniel's alarm goes off at the tagging control room?
Hopefully he has a good explanation. And if we can get contact with him, we go to his home.
What would happen if, when you came here, he wasn't at home?
Then we have to finish serving the sentence with the electronic tagging and put him in jail.
I'm already pretty tired of it because I would like to run and I like to inline skating, and so sometimes I go mad in here because I can't go out of the room.
Just 3 people monitor all 500 prisoners with tags. It's certainly cheaper, well under half the cost of prison, but is it really a punishment?
Oh, come on, I mean, it must be so much easier than going to jail.
Well, I don't agree with you, and I think our offenders do not agree either, because we have, through interviews with both staff and offenders, realized that all of them nearly think this is a very severe punishment.
By the end of the year, the prison service in Sweden hoped to use tagging for sentences of up to 11 months. But what about more serious crimes? When I was in jail, a lot of the cons used to say that the Swedish prison system was more humane and the sentences shorter. I served time in England for armed robbery, so I'd like to know how serious criminals are treated here. Hal is a maximum security prison with around 300 inmates. The theory is that high perimeter security allows for a more relaxed regime inside the prison. It does feel very secure here. All prisoners go from the wing to any other area, underground, under surveillance, through long concrete tunnels. But I was surprised when I got to the wings. It felt like any long-term wing in a British prison. The atmosphere was the same, and the only real difference I noticed was the satellite TV in their cells. In a separate wing, I noticed one big difference to British prisons.
This is where the conjugal visits take place. And I never had one of these to visit when I was in prison in England. It's, we've got a shower to refresh afterwards, I suppose. And it's pretty basic, but it fulfills a basic need as well, I think. And this is where the action takes place. And I've got to say that I wish I had this sort of facility when I was in prison in England, and maybe my marriage might have lasted.
Prisoners like Juan get 5 conjugal visits a month, and surprisingly, the prison officers like it as a method of control, because the special visits can also be taken away. Juan from Colombia has so far served 5 years for drug offences. His youngest child was conceived in prison.
Bueno, el ambiente está bien, ¿no? Para hacer una cárcel no está mal, ¿no? Claro, comparado con otros países, esto es, se puede decir que es un hotel, ¿no?
What's this in here? Ah, this is the proper flat, yeah? Yeah. God, I can't believe it. So this is where, this is where a prisoner, his wife and his children.
Yeah, can stay for a whole day. And we have somebody who's staying here overnight.
Yeah, they stay for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And how often they get that privilege?
Once a month.
Once a month. This is where the kids sleep. It's really, and the view is, it's real jail out there. And this is where Mummy and Daddy sleep.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this happening in Paul Sutton or Whitemore, you know? And yet the security is just the same. Structurally, this prison is exactly the same. It's got the equivalent of Category A prisoners in it. and yet they've got a facility like this. It's amazing.
The advantage to society is that maybe this prisoner has a family to return to when being released. If not, he has no family, no social relations. Where shall he go then? He will go to his old, bad friends, committing new crimes.
I mean, the public in England might say that this is not a punishment, that prisoners are not being punished if they're allowed to spend time with their wives. I mean, how can you defend that?
Yeah, that's a mistake, I think, talking about being punished in prison. All the international rules, the conventions signed also by the United Kingdom, says that the deprivation of liberty should be a punishment enough. We take them to prison as a punishment, not to punish them there.
Some things are really cushy in Swedish prisons. For example, when they work, they get paid the national minimum wage. But I'm sure if we had all this in British prisons, there would be a public outcry. What about the Swedish public? Don't they think that the prisoners here have got it too soft?
Allmänheten tycker nog kanske det, att det är för slappt, att det är för korta tider innan de själva kanske blir drabbade, innan de har någon i sin omgivning som blir drabbad av någon som hamnar i fängelse. Då kanske de får mer insyn i saker och ting, hur det ligger till.
Some people might think that a cushy prison system would mean higher crime rates. But in Sweden, they've only got 2/3 the number of prisoners per 100,000 that we have. It does seem a more humane system, and families are more likely to stay together. But surprisingly, reoffending rates are about the same as they are in Britain.